When we look back at how the mid-20th century imagined the future, it was almost always white, pristine, and clean. It was the era of the Jetsons, of smooth curves and utopian efficiency. But in 1982, a film arrived that shattered that glass illusion and replaced it with something darker, wetter, and infinitely more textured. We saw a city that wasn't built from scratch, but one that was suffocating under the weight of its own history. We saw Gothic arches grafted onto skyscrapers, ventilation ducts choking Art Deco facades, and a perpetual rain that seemed to dissolve the very boundary between technology and decay. This wasn't just a movie set, it was a fully realized architectural prophecy. It defined the cyberpunk aesthetic, but more importantly, it forced architects to confront the reality of urban density and environmental collapse. Today, we are dissecting the constructed reality of Los Angeles 2019 and its evolution in 2049. Hi, I'm Maria, an architectural designer and founder of Bogat Architecture and Design, and today we'll explore the dystopian design of the Blade Runner world. To understand the architecture of Blade Runner, we have to start with the concept of time. Most sci-fi movies before Blade Runner treated the future as a blank slate, a tabula rasa where everything old had been demolished to make way for the new. But Ridley Scott and his visual futurist, the legendary concept artist Syd Mead, took a different approach. They operated on a principle that is fundamental to real-world urban design, but rarely seen in movies: the principle of accretion. Cities don't just get replaced, they grow layers. Syd Mead coined a term for the aesthetic of the film, retrofitting. The idea was that in this dystopian 2019, the economy and the environment had collapsed to the point where building new structures from the ground up was impossible. Instead, the inhabitants had to retrofit existing infrastructure. This is why, when you look at the street-level shots of the film, you see layers of thick, chaotic cabling, massive ventilation pipes, and machinery bolted onto the sides of classical buildings. From an architectural history perspective, this draws heavily from the high-tech movement of the 1970s. Think of the Centre Pompidou in Paris by Renzo Piano and Richard Rogers. The philosophy there was to turn the building inside out, exposing the mechanical guts, the HVAC, the plumbing, the circulation to the exterior. In Blade Runner, this aesthetic is taken to a nightmare extreme. The guts of the building aren't exposed for aesthetic honesty, as the modernists intended. They are exposed out of necessity. It creates a visual language of suffocation. The buildings feel like they are on life support, hooked up to machines just to keep the air breathable and the lights on. This creates a texture that is incredibly dense. As an architect, when I look at the establishing shots of the city, I'm struck by the lack of negative space. There is no sky, only infrastructure. There is no horizon, only density. This visual noise suggests a society that has maximized utility at the cost of livability. It also reflects the influence of the metabolist movement, a post-war Japanese architectural movement that envisioned cities as living organisms with replaceable cells. In Blade Runner, that organism has become cancerous. The cells are growing uncontrollably, overlapping and consuming one another. This retrofit aesthetic is crucial because it grounds the sci-fi elements in a tangible reality. We recognize the brickwork, we recognize the columns, we understand that this is our world, just ruined. It makes the dystopia feel inevitable rather than fantastical. Now let's move from the chaos of the streets to the seat of power, the Tyrell Corporation headquarters. In a city defined by vertical chaos, the Tyrell building creates order through sheer, overwhelming mass. It is shaped like a massive pyramid, or more accurately, a ziggurat. This was a very deliberate choice. Throughout architectural history, the pyramid has been the ultimate symbol of immortality and godhood. From the Egyptians to the Mayans, the pyramid connects the earth to the heavens. By placing the creator of the replicants, essentially the god of this world, inside a pyramid, the film uses architectural semiotics to tell us exactly who Eldon Tyrell thinks he is. The scale of these structures is meant to evoke the technological sublime. In art, the sublime refers to something so vast and powerful that it instills a sense of awe and terror. The Tyrell pyramids are so large, reportedly 700 stories high, that they dwarf the rest of the skyline, rendering the human scale insignificant. But let's zoom in on the texture of this world. One of the most famous architectural cameos in cinema history appears in Blade Runner, The Ennis House by Frank Lloyd Wright. Ridley Scott used a cast of the Ennis House's famous textile blocks to create the interior of Deckard's apartment. Frank Lloyd Wright designed the original house in the 1920s in what is called the Mayan Revival style. The blocks are patterned concrete, creating a woven, textured appearance that feels simultaneously ancient and futuristic. Why does this matter? Why put a 21st century detective in a Mayan Revival apartment? It reinforces the theme of eclecticism. In a post-national globalized dystopia, culture has become a soup of different eras. You have Art Deco furniture, Mayan walls, futuristic screens, and 1940s noir lighting all in one room. This mirrors the architectural theory of postmodernism, which was gaining traction when the film was made. Postmodernism rejected the strict minimalism of the modernists and embraced historical references, ornament, and complexity. Blade Runner is the ultimate postmodern city. It recycles history because it has no vision for the future. The production design also heavily references the sketches of Antonio Senz'Elia, an Italian futurist architect from the early 1900s. Senz'Elia drew massive monolithic cities with elevators running up the facades and bridges connecting skyscrapers. He envisioned the city as a machine. Blade Runner takes that futurist dream and shows us the rusty, leaking reality of it. We cannot analyze the architecture of Blade Runner without talking about the section, the vertical slice of the city. In urban design, we often talk about how architecture segregates people. In Blade Runner, this segregation is absolute and vertical. This is a concept borrowed directly from Fritz Lang's 1927 masterpiece, Metropolis, but updated for the neoliberal age. At the bottom, usually referred to as the gutter, the architecture is oppressive. The scale is compressed. You are constantly in the shadow of something larger. It is damp, dark, and crowded. This is where the diverse, multicultural population lives, repurposing the waste of the upper classes. The architectural language here is what we might call cyberpunk vernacular. It's neon signs reflecting in puddles, street food stalls built into the recesses of structural columns, and a complete lack of natural light. As you ascend, the architecture changes. The air clears, the noise stops. When we enter Eldon Tyrell's office at the top of the pyramid, the architectural style shifts to something almost ecclesiastical. It is vast, open, and bathed in a golden sunset light. The space is uncrowded. In architectural terms, space is the ultimate luxury. In a city of billions, having an empty room with a view of the sun is the ultimate display of wealth. The design of Tyrell's office creates a sanctuary that feels disconnected from the grim reality below. The floor-to-ceiling windows don't just offer a view, they offer surveillance. He is the Paisi panopticon. He sees all, but is touched by none. This vertical stratification is a critique of modern urbanization. We see this today in super tall luxury pencil towers in Manhattan or Hong Kong, where the ultra-wealthy live in the clouds while the street level remains congested. Blade Runner just takes this economic reality and stretches it to its breaking point. Now let's fast forward 30 years to the sequel, Blade Runner 2049. The director Denis Villeneuve and his production designer Dennis Gassner had a massive challenge. They had to honor the aesthetic of the original film but show an evolution. The result is a shift from the clutter of the first film to the silence of the second. If the first film was about retrofitting and layering, 2049 is about brutalism and monumentality. The world has gotten harsher. The ecosystem has collapsed even further. In response, the architecture has become more defensive. We see massive seawalls holding back the ocean, a direct architectural response to climate change. The most striking example of this new style is the Wallace Corporation Earth headquarters. Unlike Tyrell's detailed, textured ziggurat, Wallace's building is a series of slanted, monolithic slabs of dark stone or concrete. It is smooth, imposing, and terrifyingly minimal. This draws heavily from Brutalism, a style that flourished from the 1950s to the 70s, characterized by raw concrete and massive blocky forms. But it also references the designs of contemporary architects like Barozzi Vega, specifically their Philharmonic Hall in Szczecin, or the unrealized monuments of Etienne Louis Boulet. The interiors of the Wallace Corp are fascinating. Villeneuve uses light and water as the primary architectural materials. The walls are often just shimmering reflections of water dancing on concrete. This is a brilliant design choice. In a world where water is scarce and nature is dead, using water as a decorative element is a display of insane power. The design creates a sense of hallowed emptiness. Wallace is blind, yet his architecture is entirely visual. It plays with shadows and silhouettes. The spaces are too big for humans, echoing the idea that Wallace, like Tyrell before him, sees himself as a god. But unlike Tyrell's warm golden Art Deco office, Wallace's world is cold, sterile, and orange-hued. We also have to look at the ruins of Las Vegas in 2049. Here, the architecture is Ozymandian. We see giant statues of women, broken and covered in red dust. This imagery evokes the fall of Rome or Egypt. It positions our current civilization, our casinos, our statues, our pleasures, as future archaeology. The shift from the blue, rain-soaked noir of the first film to the dusty orange haze of the second film also reflects a shift in architectural atmosphere. The first film was about congestion, the second is about desolation. So why does this matter to us? Why do architects still obsess over a movie from 1982? Because Blade Runner predicted the aesthetic of the Asian megacity before it fully emerged. The creators looked at the Kowloon-walled city in Hong Kong, a lawless, ungoverned, hyper-dense block of buildings, and projected that onto Los Angeles. Today, when we walk through Shinjuku in Tokyo at night, or Times Square in New York, we are walking through a sanitized version of Blade Runner. The reliance on illuminated facades, on media architecture where the building becomes a screen, is something that Ridley Scott visualized perfectly. But beyond the neon, Blade Runner serves as a cautionary tale for urban planners. It shows us a world where planning has failed. It shows us what happens when public space is eroded and replaced entirely by corporate infrastructure. The dystopian design of this world is seductive. It looks cool, it looks dramatic, but it is designed to be hostile to human life. It is a world without benches, without parks, without sunlight. As we continue to build our own megacities, as we face our own climate challenges, the architecture of Blade Runner stands as a monument to what we must avoid. We need to build cities that breathe, not cities that need to be retrofitted just to survive. We need to balance the high-tech with the human. The architecture of Blade Runner is more than just a backdrop. It is a character in the story. It tells us about the values of the society that built it, about the gap between the rich and the poor, and about the persistence of history even in a high-tech future. It is a masterpiece of world building that continues to influence how we dream about and dread tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into the architecture of science fiction, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. I'd love to hear in the comments, which version of the future do you find more compelling? The cluttered retrofit of the original or the brutalist minimalism of 2049? Until next time!